Professor Rajnish, we may start the program now.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
So I request you to kindly start with the welcome address.
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Dr. Baluji. Very good evening to one and all present over here to this national webinar. I, Rajnish Kumar Patel from Faculty of Law, Banaras University. Pleased to welcome our honorable dignitaries, most valuable participants, media personals, organizing team, and each and everyone who are viewing this webinar on this internet platform. Really, I'm very happy, and it's give me an immense pleasure to extend my to all of you warm welcome on behalf of Law School Banaras University, as well as the National Institute of Disaster Management South Campus, New Delhi, who has clubbed all of us for this today's webinar. I have to say that this event is the outcome of collaboration of two eminent nationally and internationally renowned institutions of this country. One of them is NIDM, that is National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi. It is concerned with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Government of India. This premium institution is the statutory body incorporated under Disaster Management Act in 5, and it is devoted to the training, research, documentation, creating awareness, and the capacity development in the field of disaster mitigation as well as the disaster management in India. Likewise, BSU, that is Banaras University, it is a pioneer institution constituted under Banaras Hindu University at 1915 as a teaching and residential university at Banaras, that is Kashi. Dear friends, the topic of today's webinar is climate change, child health and nutrition. This word climate change is not new for us. It is we all are familiar with this word, and actually this climate change has begun to transform our world in an unprecedented way. We have been witness a very frequent and regular severe floods, droughts, the changes in the rain, as well as heat and water stress. These phenomena are too wetty, and it will continue to have a disturbing impact on living conditions in many parts of the world, particularly to the poorest and vulnerable children. In this particular regard, the World Health Organization is the view that Earth has warmed about 0.85 degrees Celsius in the last 10 to 13 decades. And particularly the last 3 decades, it remains warmer than the preceding any decades since 1850. So, in its conclusive opinion, this World Health Organization is also of the view that it will increase up to the 3 degrees Celsius in this century. Dear friends, there is no question that the climate change is affecting the entire living things as well as our ecosystem. But its main effect on the children mainly, and who are the most vulnerable if one will consider their age or their immunity power. On the other hand, scientifically it is also well proved that chronic malnutrition during the 2 years of the early life, it will be resulted into irreversible harms to the body as well as to the health of that person. And not only this, but at each and every stage in the life cycle, malnutrition has its bad consequences for the successive stages as well as the next generation. In addition to the direct effect of malnutrition on health, it is also interact with the many infectious diseases and increase the severity of the symptom as well as the raising the mortality rates. Consequently, the children will suffer from climate change and will growing risk, and will also have to contend with the immediate and life-threatening dangers of climate-related disaster, food insecurity, rising air pollution, increased risk of vector-borne diseases, acute respiratory infections, diarrheal diseases, and malnutrition. Dear friend, the climate change, unpredictability, consequent global environmental alterations, and loss of ecosystem will have a significant impact on and water security, and eventually on malnutrition, particularly in the developing and underdeveloped countries. The World Health Organization estimated that the climate change will cause around 2.5 lakh additional deaths per year between the 2030 to 2050. This is the reason why during the World Summit on Food Security in 2009, Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations, the Director General called it the world attention that every 6 seconds child dies due to the hunger in the world, and called the countries to agree on immediate action to reverse the situation and end the scourge of the hunger and malnutrition. So, dear friends, these are some issues which are really very contemporary and important, and particularly India is also concerned with the same. So we are enough fortunate that we to discuss these issues and relevant problems. We have distinguished speakers, and for that, the faculty of law Banaras Hindu University, as well as the National Institute of Disaster Management, South Campus, New Delhi, has created a galaxy of intellectuals who will speak on the different points of the topic. In this series, first of all, I would like to welcome Major General Manoj K. Vindalji, who is the Executive Director of NIDM. Welcome. I also welcome Professor Santosh Kumar, Professor and Head NIDM. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome Dr. Kumar Raka, who is the Program Officer of NIDM, and I take this opportunity to welcome Professor R.P. Rai, Head and Dean Faculty of Law, Banaras Hindu University. I welcome both of you, sir. I also take this opportunity to welcome Dr. A. Sahin Sultanaji, Professor, Department of Social Work, School of Social Sciences and International Studies, Pondicherry University, Pondicherry. Welcome, ma'am. I also welcome Basant K. Karji, who is the recipient of Global Nutrition Leadership Award, and he is fondly known as Nutrition Man. Very welcome, sir. I heartily extend my welcome to Dr. I. Balu from NIDM, who is the main architect of this program. And finally, I welcome my most valuable participant to the program, organizing committee members, as well as every person who are associated with this event directly or indirectly. So with these remarks, once again, I welcome you all in this national event. Thank you very much. And now I'm handing over the mic to Dr. Balu for further course of action.
Yeah, thank you, Professor, for a warm welcome and agenda for today's program. And we all know that due to the climate change, the frequency and intensity of disasters has been increased, and the children are most vulnerable to these hazardous events. Right, and as per WHO, the Earth has warmed approximately 0.85 degrees Celsius, and over the last 130 years, with each of the past 3 decades and the successive warm than any president since 1850, and it's also going to warm more than 3 degrees Celsius this century alone. The effects of warming planet will be particularly harmful to the health of children, and the changes in water resources and water resource quality in underdeveloped settings are deliberating and may make it more challenging to control and prevent diarrheal illness to the children, and particular problem for children under 5. And WHO also still that the climate change will cause around huge, large amount, huge threat among the children, and the increase in the areas with a lack of safe water and variable rainfall patterns can also result in droughts. With WHO also estimates the suggesting climate change will likely to increase the frequency and intensity of these regional and global droughts by the end of this century. So, considering this impact of climate change on health and nutrition of the children, and this webinar is being organized to create awareness among the stakeholders of children. And the objective of this program to organize is to create awareness among the participants to know about the impact of climate change on children's health and nutrition. and also to meet certain measures to protect the children from this health and nutritional risk, and also to discuss the issues related to the children in the changing climate. So, Banaras Hindu University and National Institute of Disaster Management, Child-Centric Disaster Risk Reduction Center has joined hands together to organize this webinar. With this brief introduction about this webinar, now I would like to welcome our speaker, uh, Dr. A. Sahin Sultana. It's my immense pleasure to invite her. Dr. A. Sahin Sultana is a professor in the Department of Social Work, School of Social Sciences and International Studies, Pondicherry University. And she teaches the postgraduate students and guides PhD students. Her area of work and research include medical, psychotic social work, women and youth welfare, social work with families and children, and early childhood care and development, social casework and counseling. Currently, she is teaching psychology for social work practice, medical social work, public health, and social workers, social policy and social welfare administration. She has a postgraduate degree and MPhil in social work from BST College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, and PhD in social work from Loyola College, Chennai. She has also a postgraduate degree in human rights and duties education from University of Madras. Uh, with this brief introduction, now once again I invite Dr. Sahin Sultana ma'am. Over to you, please. Let me make you as a presenter. Do you have any PowerPoint, ma'am, to share? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I will share it. I will do an extempo in between where I want. I will just do a sharing. Yeah, but my video shall be off when presenting because the presentation will be on. Okay?
As you wish, ma'am. It's your turn.
Yeah, yeah.
It's visible, please make a full screen.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the screen is visible, right?
It's visible. Make it full screen, please.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
Yes.
unmute. Yeah. So.
There's some background noise from your side, I think.
Okay. Now, is it okay? Is it okay? Hello?
Still, there is a background noise, but yeah, now it's reduced.
Okay, okay. So am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So a very good evening to one and all of you. My humble apologies for the technical glitch. At first, I would like to thank all the dignitaries at the NIDM and the entire team which is working behind this capacity building program at all levels for the past so many months. My special thanks to Dr. Balu, who, as rightly said by Professor Rajneesh, the entire architect of the capacity building program. And he's the person who's combining the institutions together and putting the academicians and practitioners together. My humble thanks to Professor Rajneesh Patel for actually setting the base for the capacity building in such a detailed but crisp manner for all of us to pick up from where he had left. And my also welcome to my co-panelist who's going to present along with me on nutrition. I hope we both are able to sensitize as much as possible in the capacity building training program. So at first, when Dr. Balu asked me to speak on climate change and child health, I was feeling enthralled because at first, this is one topic, which is now increasing its visibility but still people are not focusing much on child health. And this has always been in my heart so deep. And when Dr. Balu was asking, I felt immediately I should not, miss this opportunity, and I should try to present as much as I can, because he said 30 to 40 minutes. And 30 to 40 minutes is a very small time, but yes, in a capacity building training program, you can't be speaking for hours. So you have to be crisp and you have to be brief so that the participants are able to get at least the key points which we wish to discuss. So having said this, why we need to speak on child health as far as climate change is concerned? Now, a casual discussion which is not possible in a virtual platform, we can recollect, the days, the good old days when we were children. I think many of us are not in the 70s or 80s. We are just almost close to somewhere in the 60s. We can recollect the kind of climate which we have experienced in our childhood days. And when we in this generation speak to the earlier generations, that is our grandparents, our parents, and great grandparents in some families where they say that they are witnessing a totally drastic climate change in terms of what is happening today. Now, we might say that case studies can be taken, research can be done, all this can be done at different platforms. But then we are getting these information from what is known as empirical evidence from our own family members, where they say, yes, they have witnessed a lot more in terms of climate change from even the immediate two generations. Now, the question then next comes, why is it happening? Even they keep asking us, why do you think it's happening? As though we belong to the most, predictors, but still, as we are considered to be the so-called educated, the so-called, the generation, IT generation. So they ask, why don't you all say what has happened as far as climate change is concerned? So, from a layman perspective, might we can say, no, it's because of, so much of changes which is happening, the scarcity of water, the glaciers melting here and there, and many other reasons like this we could, but it doesn't suffice the responses which they expect from people like us. Now, I have a couple of slides which I'm going to present from the uh, ground level data, that is from the studies which has been taken at different quarters, but what is being shown to us as a parameter for which we have to pick it up. So I'll be moving the slides slowly, but I'll just the framework of my presentation would be, what is climate change? As rightly said by Professor Rajneesh, climate change today we can feel that, even in the winters we can feel it's becoming so warm. When we see, recently there was a friend who was telling that, the so-called coldest, even the region like Canada, like Antarctic and Arctic oceans, even they are experiencing what is known as warm weather. And even if you see the northern parts of our own country, where people have been relishing the winters, so-called winters, even they have started saying that the beginning of January itself, they feel the warmthness now. ACs and all this start coming into place even in the end of February and the beginning of March. Earlier, it went on up to May. So the change in terms of climate, in terms of temperatures, in terms of water crisis, in terms of natural calamities, all this is counting to what is climate change. Now, I'll be moving to the framework on and off to just show what the journals and the editorials and the articles have to say. So, according to the Lancet's annual update on health, just hold on. Your picture is coming amidst my slide, so I'm having slight difficulty. Just hold on. Yeah. According to the Lancet's annual update on health and climate change, now this was published in the month of November. It says that the effects of a warming planet will be particularly harmful to the health of children. Now, everywhere, I've been giving incidences from the primary reviews where they say the Lancet, which is known as one of the premier pioneering public health journals, it says that in its annual update that every year now, we are going to experience what is known as a warming planet. And warming planet, as our ancestors have explained, as all other residents from different parts of the country have explained, there is a difference because each one of us individually are actually experiencing what is known as the effects of a warming planet. So, my dear friends, we all need to understand the fact the basic prerogative for organizing this capacity building training program is to sensitize each one of us that we are witnessing what is known as a warming planet. What you say that I'm feeling hot even in winter, I'm feeling that the temperature is so, it is a rainy day. I can feel that, there is less of numbness and chillness. It's all because that our planet is becoming warmer day by day. And please remember that if it is high time that we start discussing on what is known as the warming planet to each and every citizen of every country, because indirectly we are the people who are creating the warming planet. So, whenever this NIDM has been organizing these programs, I have been witnessing the kind of audience they pick up, because we need to have a variegated audience at different levels, probably the youth, probably the children, the elderly, the adults, the school children, the teachers, and all of them working in different sectors, because the chances are very less that we will acknowledge the fact that our planet is getting warmed up. Now, friends, it so happens that because I teach the paper public health, I might be oriented to the fact, because that is part and parcel of our curriculum. When we teach our students, whether postgraduate students or the MPhil or the PhD students, we are bound to communicate to them that, look here, students, you are living in a planet which is getting warm, and it is your duty to not only learn why it's getting warming, but also to sensitize and disseminate the information to many stakeholders as possible, because we all directly or indirectly contribute to what is known as the warming planet. Now, having said this, why is it that the Lancet's annual update specifically says that, it is harmful to the health of children? Now, this is where, the role of the NIDM has been really, really praiseworthy, because I've seen all the brochures which they bring out, the targeted group for which is being thought about is well articulated and well architectured. I see that they don't only focus on what is known as disaster management, but rather they do something which is known as the prioritizing these stakeholders, which needs to be, updated upon. Like, for example, child health. Now, child health specifically, a pediatrician can speak, a physiologist can speak, a special educator can speak, even a maths teacher can speak about child health, or a social science teacher can speak. But when we put child health in the context of disaster management, it is only those people who directly work towards, improving the health status of the population will have information, who can give from the ground as to sensitizing the participants that, look here, this is the fact and the figure. So friends, now two things I want to reiterate from this presentation. The first slide. First, yes, the planet is getting warmed. Second, yes, we are going to face it every year. Rising temperatures, soaring weather, everything is going to rise year after year. Third one, please remember, we directly or indirectly are contributing to what is known as the warming planet. And fourth, my dear friends, please remember, we are party to the fact that we are creating an environment which is very harmful to the health of the children. And that is exactly the crux of today's webinar, where we are doing a grave injustice to the health of the children. Please remember, when Dr. Balu was reading out, I specialize with families, I specialize with children, I teach public health, I teach social policy and administration. I really enjoy the kind of intertwining these subjects have. Like, for example, I will fail to teach as a teacher when I speak public health, but I don't communicate that with policy. And I was so happy. When you send a CV, we do not know what the organizers want, but he read what is known as the heart of the CV. Why is it that I'm being invited to speak today? Is because I teach public health, but at the same time, there is another paper which we call as medical social work, which means we go and work in the hospital settings. Not only that, we also work in the community settings. Not only that, there is a paper which is known as Social Policy and Welfare Administration, where we intertwine why this health policy is not working at the grounds, why this health policy is very important given the crux when it's called as disaster management. So friends, this slide is very, very important. My PPTs always have only 5-6 slides because I really feel that, these days we are becoming so virtual. I don't want you to be glossed only to the PPT, but I want you to listen to me. Rather, I would love to listen to you, but incidentally, it's a virtual platform where, it becomes difficult to interact each other. But yes, when you listen, I'm able to communicate to you what is it that I saw from the field. Now, I like to give an example. I was so happy when Professor Rajneesh stressed on the fact from Pondicherry. Yes, friends, I think I am one of the resource persons from Pondicherry in today's panel. I'm sure there are many, many from many regions. But there's something when you said Pondicherry, I need to tell you something which I saw from the field. Now, I have been migrating. I've been migrating from one place to another because of my work culture or so and so. So, having traversed across a journey, each region has given me wonderful fieldwork opportunities to grasp how diverse our country is. Just to reiterate and to cut short because of the time constraint, I happened to go to the seaside communities, okay, with a group of students. And then we wanted to understand what are the kind of problems the adolescent girls face, rather the adolescents in general. But here I'm just pointing out to the girls because, they have a lot of couple specific problems, community-oriented problems. So when I went there and, we were interviewing as a part of a team, to my surprise, all these children who have been living for ages near the seasides, all the families have been living there. And, these children, unlike our children who are in so-called, protective communities, because living near the seashore, they are prone to disasters very often. So I basically wanted to know as a field worker, what is it that, the constraints and challenges these girls have? So first thing they said that, ma'am, of course, as all of you know, we have open toilets. So, when disasters happen, when problems happen, when we go, there's a lot of, bullying and there's a lot of commenting and all this. Now, that is not the focus of today's presentation. That apart, the main thing which they wanted to say amidst is, when the question was asked to them, how do you know that a disaster happens? And the way they were beautifully narrating their experiences is what was touching our hearts as novice to that community. They said, ma'am, the moment anyone witnesses, tough waves or something which is very, very mystical, which is very confusing, or which is really, going to create some kind of a panic, what they do is they start shrieking like anything so that people who are either sleeping or cooking or bathing or in the washroom or whatever it is, they understand the fact that something is wrong on the seashore. And the next question, so what do? They say the moment, I still get goosebumps when this little girl answered to my question. An answer which cannot be found out from the best of the best journals, but something from the primary, the empirical evidence research, where she said, ma'am, do you know when there is an unusual thing which happens on the seashore, one person screams so that all the other person in their respective vicinities run. They understand they have to run. And the next question was, where and what do is we run towards the roadside, which is obviously the answer because everyone from the seashore will run towards the seashore because they knew either the community centers or the schools or so-called, CHCs or PHCs are available where they can go and take hostage. But the beautiful answer which this little girl of, 2-3 decades younger to my scholars, where she said that, do you know, ma'am, what do we pick up when we hear the sound? Because so frequently disasters are happening. Can anyone give an answer? Would have been if I was in an open forum. They said we scream and then we only pick up a ration card and we run towards the roadside. So friends, now from this small example, I would like to say how the climate change, which has created the disasters, has created an uncertainty and a mental kind of a disturbance in these young children, that they realize that nothing is important when a disaster happens. It's not your books, it's not your clothes, it's not your, your any other documents. It's basically a ration card which says that yes, you are a person from this locality, so that you can at least get the basic things like a hostage in a particular place, or at least the basic right for essential nutrition, food security, because the first thing anyone would be asked for, where is your ration card or where is your Aadhaar card? Now, such kind of case studies were taken in many of the vicinities where people are experiencing, what is known as climate change. Now, when their parents were asked for, did you have such kind of an insecurity? They say, no, we never. For ages, we've lived near the seashores. We've never experienced what is known as, disasters earlier. Yes, there were heavy rains. They used to be sometimes very cold, chillness and all that, but never kind of an insecurity that I'll have to run, I'll have to scream, I'll have to take my ration, nothing like that. And friends, don't you feel that we have done enough injustice to these people who feel that that is their home, and to similar such families and communities where they're living near the mines, where they're living near the mountains, where they're living in the forests, and how we have disturbed their livelihoods, their localities, and their communities. Now, my second slide is, as pointed out by the Professor Rajneesh also and Dr. Balu when they were introducing, is WHO has estimated that climate change will cause around 250, in fact, 250,000 additional deaths per year between 2030 and 2050. That is 38,000 from heat exposure in the elderly. So when we say climate change, it's about heat, it's about allergies, it's about, illnesses. 48,000 from diarrhea, 60,000 from malaria, and 95,000 from childhood undernutrition. Now, as rightly said, when the resource persons were just, introducing, they said that climate change doesn't affect directly the child health. No. How does it affect? They create some unnatural circumstances where the children is susceptible to illnesses like diarrhea. They are susceptible to illnesses like malaria. They also will face childhood undernutrition. Why? Because they are disturbed from their communities. They are disturbed from the localities. They are asked to move. They are asked to evict. They are asked to move. So what happens is the supply of food, the supply of medicines, the supply of a natural environment gets disturbed. And as a result, what happens? Children are susceptible to illnesses, to deformities, and also to different kinds of problems. So the child health is the main target as far as our webinar is concerned, and how these climate change has been estimated, that is in 2030 and 2050, how severe it is going to be is very important for us to speak in 2021. In fact, the NIDM started earlier also, but now because each session is moving out from 20 to 21, we've moved, and we can see that within a span of 9 years, we'll have to intensify our capacity building training programs, so that even when we have to waste an ounce of water, we think 20, 30 times, are we doing, some injustice to the health of the children? Now, my next slide would be, now in what way, because as I already said that 40 minutes, yes, it's a very small time, but then, the effect of climate change on child health is because physical and psychological sequelae of weather disasters. That means if you see in the recent decades, you see, tsunami was just in 2004. Now, after that, you see the number of cyclones which are happening, the number of floods which are increasing, the number of wildfires, hurricanes. I think there isn't any day when you switch on the television or you pick up a newspaper where you can't see that any region across this world or any state in our country is devoid of, any problems which is relating to climate change. So, as rightly pointed out in this advocacy paper, that the physical and the psychological sequelae of the weather disasters has increased. Friends, you really need to keenly observe this point, that it is not that the climate change has not happened in the place where I stay. No. If you feel that, you're going to be absolutely wrong, because there isn't going to be any region in this whole globe where you're not going to be affected by climate change. And also, please don't undermine that the psychological change will be not in my region. Absolutely not. All of us in one way or the other are going to be, involved in such kind of a sequelae of weather disasters where the intensity is going to rise. It can be flood, it can be heavy rains, it can be also, the melting of the glaciers, but it's happening. It is happening now, this second, this minute, and it's going to have a huge impact on the health of our children. So it is our obligation and our duty to create an environment which is very, very child friendly, where the child has basic entitlements, that is its health, because he or she is born into this world as part of this country. Now, increased heat stress, they are saying that there is going to be a heat rise as far as the temperatures are concerned. And this is going to also impact, many children, and that's going to have a disastrous consequence if it's not going to be controlled now. The third one, I think I'm sure all of you must be hitting the headlines these days, where the air quality, I think this COVID pandemic in that way, the air quality, because of the number of vehicles which is passing has slowly, come down, and then also the number of users has already come down. But yes, it has hit the livelihoods, no doubt. But the high, intensity of traffics and everything, because of that, the air quality might have, but no guarantee, because we have actually spoiled the weather to such a level that now even the air which we are breathing as citizens of this global community, we have polluted it to such extreme. Leave alone the adults and the elderly, even the children are going to be have a lot of problems, respiratory illnesses like asthma, chronic lung infections, and many other illnesses relating to lung. We also have altered vector-borne disease patterns. Now, earlier we had dengue, malaria, all these problems, have been very seasonal, but now it is also rising, because the moment climate change happens, then, you have the sequelae of weather disasters rising. And as a result, you're going to have the vector-borne disease patterns also, changing, because that is how it happens. Everything is interconnected. As I said, when I teach public health, I can't be without giving examples from administration. I can't be doing without how it's being treated in the hospitals. I can't teach without how it affects the psychology of the individuals. So everything has to be interconnected, and that's how, the borne disease patterns also are changing. And the last one, food, water, and nutrient insecurity. I think in the intro, all the people had already said that, yes, when climate change happens, we are going to have a shortage as far as food is concerned, water, even the nutrients which are going to be available to our children are going to become insecure. And it is our duty to rise up and stand, hold hands, and protect the lives of our children. Now, climate change may also affect the transmission of infectious diseases. I already said that, the first one, vector-borne diseases, the pattern will change. But then the transmission of infectious diseases like dengue also might be affected. Like, for example, Nature Microbiology, a 2019 report said that 60% of the world will be at risk for dengue in 2080. I already said 2030 to 50 in the last slide, how there's going to be an increase as far as, climate change and deaths are concerned. And if you see this slide, you can see that the risk for dengue is also increasing, and the reason and the contributing factor is climate change. So please remember, it's not that food scarcity is going to come, or there is going to be a nutrient insecurity alone, but we are also going to rise to have huge cases of dengue and other vector-borne diseases. And imagine if children are going to be affected by so many problems, how are they going to even aspire to have a healthy future is a big, big question, which NIDM proposes to advocate and find out solutions for that with you and me as stakeholders in this entire joint venture. Now, by 2020, climate change is projected to expose an estimated 75 million people in Africa. I'm telling one of the country which is having much of the not the sophisticated sort of the lifestyle opportunities or what you call infrastructure. Even they 75 million they are going to have towards water stress, and the end of the 21st century, there's going to be a projected sea level rise will affect low-lying, heavily populated coastal areas. So even I would be at risk probably at by 2020. This is what they were saying. So maybe I'm in 2021 now, and then there's going to be a projected sea level rise across. It's not only here, across wherever you can see these sea levels, and they are going to have an impact on the populated coastal areas. Now, just attribute myself to the example which I gave of the adolescent girl whom we interviewed as part of a case study. So insecurities are going to rise because there are so many coastal communities living, and they're all going to have a risk. And 2020, friends, is just gone, so we are almost at the anvil, expecting many more disasters to come. Now, Balu sir, I'll just take another 5 minutes, not more than that. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. So children must be the first priority in risk reduction efforts. So as rightly said now, when we've understood that children are going to have nutritional deficiency diseases, water scarcity is going to harm them, there's going to be even scarcity of food, and there's going to be soaring high temperatures. So when we talk about risk reduction, we have to give first priority for children, because beautifully said that they exist on behalf of their caregivers. Okay, specific risks that exist for children. Their children are at the mercy of their caregivers, and I think I won't attribute their caregivers to only their parents. It is their teachers, it is the community, it is the government, it is the governing, it is everyone in the community. As beautifully said by some, that childcare is no longer a family responsibility. Childcare is a social responsibility. The doctor, the engineer, the teacher, everyone has a role in the well-being of the children. And the actions that might be taken to counter those risks should be determined in addition to risk reduction strategies for populations at large. So what, as far as risk reduction strategies are concerned, we need to take action so that the entire population, that is the child, the entire world, the population of the children have to be taken care of. India alone has 40 to 42% of children, and we are one of the child densely populated country in the world. We are also the youth densely populated country in the world, which means we have the biggest responsibility when compared to other countries. Yeah, so up to 2/3 of preventable illness and death is from environmental hazards. I repeat, okay, preventable. I am a public health social worker, so I should tell you that majority of the illness and death can be prevented. This is the saddest part. Many of them are not aware of the fact that illness and death can be prevented, rather prolonged, at least. Like, we can't prevent anyone from dying, but at least we can prevent them from getting illness which leads to death. And this is happening from environmental hazards, and this is experienced by children, and the burden is predominantly in those aged under 5 years. So 3 points in the first statement is very important. We need to prevent illness, we need to prevent death, we need to prevent environmental hazard which is being experienced by children, because 5 and less than 5 years, either the child in the womb, the impact starts from the beginning, from the womb, the mother who's bearing the child, and the child who's in the womb no way is connected to what is happening outside, but internally is experiencing this impact. We are doing a grave, grave injustice to the child even before coming into this world. So we need to prevent it. The children are more vulnerable than adults to changes in their environment, because they are small, because they're physiological, because cognitive immaturity, and because the main reason they are depending on us for safety and protection. That is why more investment has to be done in sensitizing the stakeholders and the caregivers than the children. Of course, we need to sensitize the children. It happens as part of the EVS subject in their schools and other summer camps and NSS and NSC's trainings and all that. But who's responsible ultimately is the elderly, the adults, and all the other people who can be sensitized, who, because of their ignorance, have already spoiled or rather destructed the environment. So we need to hold a lot of capacity building programs, and I think NIDM is the right track. They have been doing a lot of programs. Every time you open the brochures, they are level best to reach out to nook and corner of the country to sensitize people. But besides that, we also need to go and give more further hands to support them in their endeavors, so that we preserve the environment and we give a healthy environment to our young and older children. So friends, climate change is expected to bring in more frequent and more and severe extreme weather events. To name a few: storms, cyclones, floods, and droughts. Children are particularly vulnerable to these hazards because they are dependent on their caregivers for safety and protection, not only to prevent but also during such events. Now, please remember, the earlier one is saying they are depending on the caregivers for safety and protection. But here, they are dependent on the caregivers for safety and protection during such events, which means when they are experiencing storm, when they are experiencing cyclone, when they are experiencing flood and drought, they are going to have both physical and mental trauma, and it is us who have to support them, despite the fact that we also will be experiencing the same trauma and the same mental health problems. But then we have to stand as pillars to support them, so that we don't sabotage their childhood and make them a burden. That is why, people have often said that if you invest 1 rupee when the child is young, you can take 10,000 rupees return, because we have safeguarded the physical and the psychological health of the children at young age, so that he or she does not become a burden to the country or to the community. And we need to understand in the last slide from what I wanted to show, that it has evolved, climate change has evolved from an environmental issue into one that is requiring collective expertise. Okay, so I'm reading that again. We have to shift from environmental issue into one where we require major hands, because we believe in developing sustainable development, energy security, and the well-being and health of children. So without considering this as only an environmental issue, we need to think that we have to target it microscopically in terms of sustainable development, energy security, health and well-being of children. In fact, recently when I was just drafting a paper where I was about to justify to one of the organizers that I have to speak and present for my proposal on youth and mental health with respect to climate change, and I wrote on the paper on capacity building, I had to justify that evidence shows that majority of the countries, they are invisibly facing a number of suicides because of problems which are happening with respect to disasters, climate change, and many other problems. But the saddest part is it's not getting documented. And every researcher like me and many of you, I'm sure, must be working on similar kind of issues. But please bring it to forums so that we join hands in being what is known as the collective expertise in sustainable development, energy security, and the health and well-being of the children. I will end my presentation by saying that we should always remember the fact, whether it is anything which you utilize, whether it's time, money, any kind of a resource, we need to be answerable, because it's a duty to protect and preserve the younger ones who are waiting to see their good old days in the coming days. I take this opportunity to thank NIDM, Dr. Balu, and all of them for giving me an opportunity to speak for half an hour on how climate change impacts child health. I would say it is going to impact them in a huge manner. It has already impacted them. Let's alert, let's be aware, and let's create a very, very observant and a very, very duty-ridden community and a country. Thank you all.
Uh, Thank you so much, ma'am, for focusing on climate change and child health. And your presentation, you have taken a lot of reference to the research to make a justification in your presentation. I request all the participants to kindly may post your questions in the chat box. As of now, there is no any question here, ma'am. So I request you to stay here. Maybe at the end of the session, if you are having any question, will be uh, referring to you. So once again, I request all the participants, if you are having questions, please post in the chat box. I would like to add a couple of points here. When this due to climate change, frequency and intensity of disasters are being increased, and especially with reference to the situation, when the farmers or the families were losing their income, it leads to the low purchasing power. And another side, it also increases the price of the available foods. So what happens here is, one side there is a low purchasing power, and another side the prices are also goes up. So because of that, the families where and the parents are not able to feed their children properly, which also leads to the disruption in the nutrition supply. It also leads to the child spending, child vaccine, and being underweight. And these are the three major criteria that are being used at global level to assess the disaster and climate change impact on the health of children. And you know that the child spending is inadequate to grow, height for age, and this child being underweight is weight for age, and this child wasting is weight for age. So these are all the major impact among the children's health. The children were being affected by the children were being become a child standard and child wasting and being underweight. So with this now Professor Santosh Kumar sir is also joined here. A warm welcome to you, sir. I request if you are available, can you reflect on this presentation, or would you like to add any point here, sir?
Dr. Bala,
Yes, sir, please.
Balu, thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much. What I would suggest,
Yes.
I would like to listen to Mr. Kar and
Yes.
others, and maybe at the end, I would like to see that if I am, because they are the people who have done a lot of work on the ground.
Yes. Yes.
He's very well known also in the country. So let us see all those presentations first. Madam was making a wonderful presentation and the point. So let us hear all of them, and then probably we would interview.
Yeah.
So I would over to you, Balu.
Thank you so much, sir. Ma'am, there is one question for you. Sultana, ma'am, what are the four main effects of climate change on children? What are the four main effects of climate change?
Sir, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just put in my presentation that, one, if you see the development as far as the children are concerned, there are 5, 6 components. Okay, so climate change has an impact on their health, one. Second, on their education, because it's a general question, what are the 4 effects of climate change? So one on their health, one on their development, one on their survival, one on their growth, and also education. So they say that, child health, child nutrition, child survival, child development, and child education. So the effects of climate change is not only four, it's predominantly, a list which could be exhaustive. But most of the important is nutrition, even education, even survival, development, as well as, the entire, the what I would call is the whole span of development of the child gets affected because of climate change. And to add on poverty, many of the things which indirectly has an impact on the child. But two, three important points which I stressed was nutrition, was development, was survival.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering the question. Now let's move on to the next presentation. Uh, it's my immense pleasure to invite Mr. Basant Kumar Kar, who is an international development professional who has won numerous awards and has a broad experience of leading and managing large country and regional programs in South and Southeast Asia with demonstrable results for nutrition and poverty eradication endeavors. He was conferred with most prestigious Site and Life Global Nutrition Leadership Award in 2019. Manega Swachh and Swasth Clean and Healthy India Hero of the Decade recognition in 2019. Transform Nutrition Champion Award for India and Bangladesh 2016 and contribution to Boshan Abhiyan. He holds management degree from Institute of Rural Management on IRMA and a degree in English Literature and Law. With this brief introduction about Basant Kumar sir, over to you, please. Let me open the presentation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Balu. At the outset, I must say wishing you all Happy New Year and good afternoon. So it gives me a lot of satisfaction to be with you today to speak about a topic which is very close to all of us, and all of us have experienced about that. I am also thankful to Professor Santosh Kumar and other panel members, Dr. Patel, Madam, Dr. Sahil, and also BHU and NIDM for this giving me this opportunity. I think my previous speakers have spoken a lot about climate change, health, and nutrition. I will largely focus on nutrition aspect, and I will also present about how important it is. You can go to next slide.
Just
How important it is in this context of pandemic also, because all of us know that uh, disaster compounds vulnerability, and process of marginalization. Next slide, Dr. Balu.
shift change, sir.
Whenever we are speaking about nutrition, we speak about many forms of nutrition. Change, yes. We speak about many forms of nutrition. Broadly speaking, malnutrition.
It's not moving, Balu. Presentation.
Sir,
Slide is
And
slide.
overweight. And
Basant, is it okay, sir?
under nutrition, what Dr. Balu spoke is about stunting, wasting, underweight, anemia, and when we are speaking about obesity or overweight, we are talking about higher body mass index and many other things. And it is important to speak that India is a peculiar country where there is both undernutrition and obesity together. So India has a double burden. So can you go to next slide, please?
I'm showing malnutrition in all forms. Is it visible or?
And no, it is not visible, but I can speak about that. It is not visible.
Close it and again start.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So you do that.
Okay, sir.
I'm
Is it moving
speaking.
now? Basant,
No.
It is not.
sir.
Is it? Is it visible? No, it is not visible to me.
I'm sorry, I'll open once again. Please give me a 2 minutes. I'll close it and open again.
And no problem, but let me speak because of the time.
Please continue, sir.
Uh, so we are speaking about both obesity and also undernutrition together. Why it is important? Because India is a typical country where there is both undernutrition and obesity. So it is a double burden. And in a country where you will find double burden, you will find something seriously wrong with the food system. So we need to set our food system right. Many European countries, even in US, you can find only single burden, obesity. And you know how why obesity is also very important and how it has implications during these pandemic times and how it increases the fatality. So so climate change affects both, creates both the burdens and it has implication on health. It has implications on life and livelihood. So we need to be very cognizant about that. And again, I will also thank NIDM for choosing this important topic. Yes, you can go to next slide. So choosing this important topic and this important movement because it is very important and in a pandemic situation it is also more important. So that is important. Then let me speak about why nutrition is important. At one point, nutrition was invisible. People think nutrition has no meaning, but let me share with you. It has implications on growth, productivity, demographic dividend, and it can also bring good health. 10 years back, we used to read that it has direct bearing on child mortality. Lancet research says two-thirds of the infant mortality is attributed to malnutrition. Some research says it is around 45 to 50%. So apart from mortality, it increases the productivity. 1% loss in adult height due to stunting can decrease productivity by 1.4%. Eliminating anemia can increase productivity by 5 to 17%. So, if you want skill India, digital India, make India, or new India, so certainly we have to invest on nutrition. Another important thing is it has a direct bearing on human capital potential, IQ. So IQ loss could be 5 to 11 point because of the stunting. And in India, the stunting is more than 30%. You can go to next slide, Dr. Balu. So, so it is important. So let me again share with you how India fares compares with the world. I have not taken this National Family Health Survey 5 data, which just got released recently. It talks about 22 states and union territories, 17 states and 5 union territories. Uh, uh, so, uh, so if you look into stunting, in Germany it is 1%, in India it is 35%. Wasting is almost zero in Australia, in India it is 17%. So then anemia is 11% in US, in India it is 53%. And I spoke about how there is a double burden, 20% women and 18% male are also obese and overweight. Next slide. So because of the bandwidth, I just switch off my video. The micronutrient malnutrition, which might kill, but most of the times it increases susceptibility to immunity, infection, and deficiency can cause increase in low cognitive ability, morbidity, and mortality. And this corona time, all of us are familiar about vitamin A deficiency, vitamin D deficiency. zinc deficiency, and folate deficiency. And you can see it is almost all pervasive. Let me tell you about zinc, which, if there is a deficiency, it can impair immunity and lead to infection and diarrhea. So in India, 1/5 of preschool children have deficiency on zinc, and in a state like Odisha, 42% of the adolescents have zinc deficiency. Another point is note, which is towards the end, which is I have marked in red color. Children with pre-diabetic. In India, it is almost 10%. In a state like Odisha, almost 20% children. So whenever there is a pre-diabetic children, it can lead to increased obesity, or it can lead to many non-communicable diseases like a heart attack, chronic diabetic, even some forms of cancer. So all these micronutrient deficiencies are also linked to climate change. I'm sharing some of the evidences how it's also linked to climate change. Slide. So if you want to address, unless you address nutrition issues, we may not address the climate and health issues. And even if you want to address, if you can manage nutrition issues, we can also manage climate and vice versa. So both all these are well linked. Uh, I think Madam was speaking about investing during home. So whenever we are talking about child nutrition, we must speak about the first 1,000 days, which starts from antenatal period till 2 years of age. And cognitive development and IQ development happens during this period, brain development. And if we miss this opportunity, we can miss throughout the life. This is called the first 1,000 days or first window of opportunity. So whenever working on climate change, working on health, we must look into maternal health, and maternal health also is linked to adolescent health. So starting from adolescent health, starting then in during pregnancy and within 2 years of birth, we need to work on, if you want to work on nutrition, health, and climate change. Next slide. This is about COVID and malnutrition. I think many of us have experienced. Malnutrition increases susceptibility to infection, and infectious diseases also cause malnutrition, resulting in a vicious cycle of morbidity and mortality. And acute respiratory illness caused by pathogenic microorganisms can severely compromise progress made in defeating malnutrition in India. Studies suggest that vitamins and minerals like vitamin A, vitamin D, B6, B12, C, zinc, etc., contribute to reduce infection. And uh, there are many incidental gains during pandemic. One such gain, or the largest beneficiary, is nutrition, to my mind. And there is a debate about in the requirement of immunity. There is also growing realization how nutrition is important, how micronutrients are important to manage good health and prevent infection and have a good life. All these things also are linked to child nutrition and linked to climate change. Next slide. Uh, so next slide. Let me specifically deal with climate change, nutrition, and health. Um, once I think we must have known about heavy metal contamination. We must have known about arsenic. Um, if and it has a problem on skin cancer. It can lead to cancerous of the bladder, kidney and lung, reproductive disorders. Arsenic exposure of mothers may cause neural tube defects such as spina Befana in babies, which basically creates a physically challenged babies, which is mostly linked to malnutrition. And this is one such heavy metal, but there are heavy metal poisoning due to mercury, lead. So we need to look into this, and climate disorder also compounds the problem of that. Madam talked about vector-borne uh, disease like malaria, filaria, and malaria also increases anemia. Even 90% of all deaths from diarrhea, mainly in children, bulk of malnutrition is associated with diarrhea, one infection caused by contaminated water and poor water sanitation and hygiene. So there is always a link there is between climate change, then its implications on health, its implication on nutrition, and another thing I want to bring to all of you that it is an intragenerational issue. Although it is intergenerational issue, it is also intergenerational issue. So if the child is malnourished, then the adolescent girl child could be malnourished. Then it could lead to low birth weight babies. And in India, almost 20% children are born with low birth weight babies. So the low birth weight babies are more prone to infection, more prone to wasting, and many it also lead to many deaths. So if we could invest on sustainable planet, if we could invest on sustainable health, sustainable nutrition, definitely we can bring a new world order. And specifically, this pandemic has taught us about that. Next slide. Um, Here I am specifically talking about how there is a link between filaria, malaria, and also malnutrition. So I have seen, it might not be visible to many people. So basically, I have tried to share how certain neglected tropical disease like filaria can cause deformity, can also cause morbidity, can result to poor immune system. Similarly, if the child has filaria untreated or lymphatic filariasis untreated, if the child is also undernourished, if the child is malaria, then there is a compounded problem. In a state of Odisha, I initiated a comprehensive campaign to deal with three things: malaria, malnutrition, and filaria. And there are some organizations who are also starting mal campaign, malaria and malnutrition reduction campaign, because anemia is a common factor. During malnutrition, there is also anemia, and whenever there is a malaria, it also leads to anemia. So there is a common, and I shared with you, if there is anemia, how difficult it is and how fatal it is, how it can decrease productivity and increase morbidity. So next slide. And you know that all three things are linked. I worked many years in the country like Bangladesh. Um, I did one analysis about the rice. There is a particular variety of rice in Bangladesh. It is more abundantly grown, biri rice. Ideally, the genes should have been come from the soil, but since uh, there is a soil, because of the climate change, because of the cyclone and flood, recurrent climate change effects, the soil fertility has gone down. Because soil fertility has gone down, so zinc content in the rice has gone down. Since zinc content has rice in the gone down, so there is also incidence of higher stunting and incidence of higher disease in a country like Bangladesh. It is the same thing in India also. Next slide. Very interesting slide. ICRISAT conducted a research in state of Odisha. The soil health mapping they did in Odisha, which revealed widespread deficiency of micronutrients and secondary nutrients. About 80% fields were deficient in boron, 42% in zinc, 51% in sulfur, 28% in magnesium, and 43% in carbon. So naturally, the soil fertility is coming down because of the climatic conditions and many other reasons. And because soil fertility is coming down, so it has implications on malnutrition and also poor health. And that is why Honorable Prime Minister also introduced, next slide, introduced soil health card. So, which is very important. This is an interesting slide. At one point, people were thinking malnutrition is not necessary, investment on nutrition is necessary. And with the strong leadership of Honorable Prime Minister in 2018, Poshan Abhijan or National Nutrition was launched, and it is a target-driven mission and specifically targeted women and children. So the target was to reduce 2% stunting, 2% undernutrition, then 2% low birth weight among children, then reduce among anemia among children and adolescents and women from 3%. This is a very significant move. It signals a new era in nutrition history because many times whenever we talk about nutrition, we talk that India is home to one third of the stunted children. India has the highest number of Western children. So you know that there are many issues, many debates, many things, but it is a strong and bold step by Honorable Prime Minister to launch this ambitious mission. It is not only set target, but it also set a target to reduce stunting from 38.4% in 2018 to 25% by 2022. So this Abhijan is going on. Next slide. Let me share after the launch of Poshan Abhijan, how many things have happened. After launch of Poshan Abhijan, Jan Andolan has started people's movement. I think Honorable Prime Minister's vision that it has to be people's led, and so that is why he has been emphasizing. Anemia Back to Book to Bharat program has been launched. Then aspirational district program anchored by Niti Aayog has been launched in 117 districts. There is a Fit India movement. There is Eat Right campaign. The first nutrition survey which came out first of its kind in the history of India in 2016-18, and I shared about micronutrient deficiency and other data. Then Food Atlas is also being developed. A new nutrition anthem was launched by Honorable Vice President. New agri-nutrition policy is being drafted. NDM is a member. I want to stop here and spend a little few minutes about agri-nutrition policy. This is mostly linked to climate. And if we want to address India's malnutrition, we need to make our agri-nutrition production climate smart. India is prone to many natural and human-made disasters, recurrent droughts, recurrent cyclones. There are floods. There are many things, and which affects the agriculture pattern, agriculture production, and specifically smallholder farmer. I think NDMA has a greater and larger role to influence this policy. We can discuss later. Fortunately, I am part of this committee, and NDMA is also part of this committee. We can work together how it can bring out a very climate smart, nutrition sensitive agriculture policy. Few months back, MWCD Ministry signed one MOU with the Ayush Ministry to integration of traditional system of medicine and promotion of medicinal guidance in identifying Anganwadi centers. So this is also another step which is also linked to disasters and emergency which is an area which NDMA can play a role. Next. It is not about this list is exhaustive, but during last Posan month, which Honorable Prime Minister called upon people to get connected with Rashtriya Posan Maah through Jan Andolan. Not only Honorable Prime Minister, many cabinet ministers also spoke about that. Then Honorable Prime Minister dedicated 17 biofortified varieties of crops to the nation. He also launched a nutrition park in Gujarat. Then Jal Jeevan Mission, which is very ambitious program, has integrated nutrition. I was invited to present how nutrition can be part of mainstreamed into Jal Jeevan Mission, and specifically I shared about the ill effects of the heavy metal contamination and how water itself can be a source of nutrient. If you could eliminate some of the contamination aspects, then there is definitely water has nutrient. And I work in Bangladesh, and I brought that their first nutrition survey, micronutrition survey. After micronutrient survey, somehow I was instrumental in bringing out Bangladesh groundwater iron policy. So there is a lot of iron in groundwater. So India also can learn from that. Many states have gone ahead in many nutrition programs. Odisha is one example to include fees in the Anganwadi program, separate nutrition budget they have brought. I think large number of states have now gone ahead with kitchen garden. But NDMA has a role to play and influence what type of food groups they should also invest, or what type of kitchen garden, what are the plans to be part of that kitchen garden. Then India's proposal to declare 2023 as the International Year of Millets, and Prime Minister's endorsement was a great message in this direction. And all of us, next slide, all of us know that millet is also a climate smart crop. Then what can be done? I think in line with Atmanirbhar Bharat, we need to also work on Atmanirbhar Posan, nutritional self-sufficiency. I please go to next slide, then I will come to this slide. Next. So this is one important slide. It is also very pity that today almost 90% children do not get minimum 4 groups, food groups, do not get right nutrition between 6 to 24 months. 90%. You might be shocked. Some of you know this, but many people do not know this. Even people from rich, children from rich families also don't get. So these are the 10 food groups, and children do not get 4 food groups. So what I am suggesting as part of the, you can go back, as part of the nutritional self-reliance, at least each district should be self-sufficient in 4 food groups. Ideally, it should be 6 because pregnant women need, but even if it's 6 is not there, at least 4 food groups. NIDM has a role to play and influence the district on which food groups, which is climate smart, they should also work on that. Addressing protein hunger is important. Expand food programs and income safety net. Diversify both production and farming system to include poultry, fishery, dairy. Invest on women smallholder farmer because they are the worst hit. Micronutrient malnutrition I shared. So Nutri-Garden is one step. Dietary diversity, which can be promoted through Nutri-Garden and many other ways. Food fortification is second. Food Safety Authority of India, FSSAI, has mandated many food fortifications. They have issued a guideline in 2018, which is a very important significant step. Biofortification, I shared how Prime Minister has launched biofortification crops, and In a state like Odisha, there is a millet mission, and many states have linked to Monrega. So, climate smart agriculture is key. So, to address micronutrient, all pervasive micronutrient malnutrition, obesity and overweight, safe and nutritious diets is key. Salt, sugar, and fat, these three things have to be controlled. You'll be happy to know that few weeks back, Food Safety Authority of India issued a guideline to reduce trans fat to 2% by 2022. It is also a significant step. And our food, micro, small, medium enterprises are key. I have a paper which you can read later. My suggestion is let food entrepreneurs be the nutrition entrepreneurs. I think that will be key, and because we depend upon micro, small, medium enterprises, and because of the unsafe food, because of this food with high salt, sugar, and fat, obesity is increasing, and non-communicable diseases are increasing. So let us try to control this for a new India, for a better India. Next slide. Uh, so, uh, so we, and another thing, specifically during emergency and disaster, and specifically during this pandemic, there is incidence of increase in breast milk substitutes. Ultra processed foods have been promoted for the children who are supposed to be breastfed. So it is necessary that on food and nutrition we should increase entitlement. We should promote strong regulatory enforcement and monitoring. And India is a gifted country having this food law which monitors ICDS nutrition program, midday meal program, and PDS program. So if you could strengthen regulatory enforcement and monitoring, definitely we can address climatic disruption issues and also increase better health and nutrition. Next slide. I shared about this slide. I think each district should be self-sufficient in 6 food groups. For children, at least they need 4 food groups. But my humble request to all participants to promote infant and young child feeding practices. It is not rocket science. It is just like all the food groups. You know that cereals and millets, pulses, milk products, roots and tubers, green leafy vegetables, other vegetables, fruits, sugar, fat, fish, egg, other non-veg. So let the child take at least 4 food groups, 6 to 24 months, which is the first part of the first 1,000 days and part of the first window of opportunity. If we miss it, we miss the life of the child throughout the life. इसका बाद जितना भी इन्वेस्ट करने में ज्यादा कुछ फायदा नहीं होने वाला है. So behavior, social behavior change will be very key, and nutrition awareness will be very key during this period. Apart from next slide, apart from investing and making the district self-sufficient. It is not about only food. The children also need immunization. Children also need better water sanitation and hygiene. Adolescent health, I spoke about that. I spoke about micronutrient rich food. ORS, zinc, deworming tablets are already available from Anganwadis. Then also need maternal health and nutrition. For maternal health and nutrition, proper antenatal checkup during pregnancy at Anganwadi, which is done free of cost, is also very important. So focus on the first 1,000 days, first window of opportunity, adolescent girls at second window of opportunity. Next slide. I want to tell here one thing. There is a lot of nutrition disruption. If you see the data, some of the supplies, some of the services do not reach, or convergence sometimes do not happen. It is mandated that in each month there has to be village health, nutrition, and sanitation day. So many times it does not happen. So it should happen. This is another area which needs a lot of attention, a lot of investment. You saw about the stunting wasting figure, and I also spoke that about the low birth weight. Many children go to severely affected malnourished category. SAM stands for severely affected malnourished category. Those children who go to severely affected malnourished category, some of them recover, but many of them die. And it is high time that and I'll tell you why it is important on disaster context. You will find the reported deaths of the children during late summer and during the rainy season. So this is a season when you will find a lot of reports related to malnutrition deaths. So it has direct bearing on seasonality, it has direct bearing on climatic issues. So it is important that we identify those, and our nutrition surveillance has to be increased, and they should be referred to the nutrition rehabilitation center. So it is our responsibility and duty, and let us at least place today for no child death. I spoke also last time. I am also reiterating today because every child is important. Life of every child is important. So right to life and livelihood, right to survive, and right to survive and thrive and live a life with dignity. Let us place today. That is more important, and let us not try to hear about the single child going to severe affected malnourished category or dying. Next slide. So that is very important for a country like India. There has to be interconnection strategy. We need to connect not nutrition along with filaria management, malaria management, and also childhood TB, childhood cancer is also important. We need to link. So it is not just standalone. We only work on nutrition, forget about other things, other illness. So nutrition and health is well linked. Nutrition and child health on many aspects is also well linked. So it is important that there has to be an interconnection strategy between malnutrition and other child health related issues. Next, um, I I want to bring one best practice by one development organization. I must thank WISH Foundation on sharing this slide, and they have been working in India in many Indian states, starting from Northeast to Rajasthan, and they have done a commendable job in streamlining public health system, and specifically they are working on PSCs. They have strengthened PSCs, and look at their analysis how it is detrimental effects of current change on child health and how it has bearing on child health and nutrition. So climate um, change, child health, and nutrition is well linked, as as many panel members spoke, and also it has been evidenced and by WIS Foundation also. Uh, and they have a vision to work on to strengthen comprehensive primary health care coverage. Their WIS model in even in tea state of Assam promoting CPSC with technology and innovation, community awareness actively followed by smart clinic tab-based model at tea state hospital with adequate use of technology and point of care devices is also another important model. And they are also working on behavior change and many interpersonal counseling strategy and also campaigns. Another thing I want to bring to your notice that workforce nutrition is also mostly ignored, invisible. We need to work on that. Today, we have 1.4 million Anganwadi workers, 1.4 million helpers. There are ASA, there are also ANMs. So almost 4 million women, corona warriors and nutrition warriors are there in the ground. They are helping us, they are saving us. And if you analyze these workforce, they themselves are anemic, they themselves are malnourished. Even people who produce the smallholder farmers, women smallholder farmers are anemic. And people who work on MSMEs, these workforce also are malnourished or they must have micronutrient deficiency. We need to invest on workforce nutrition because they are the key people and key change leader to transform nutrition landscape in India. Next slide. So I would reiterate. Next slide, please. I would reiterate about the better convergence. I have been writing, I have been talking. Poshan Abhijan also has a mandate on this. Mainstream and convergence. Let Anganwadi Center be a center of excellence. Already there is a mandate, Village Health Nutrition Sanitation Day. Already there is a mandate of meeting and home contact by the ANM and also Anganwadi worker. Let there be quality home contact. Let there be quality in nutrition counseling. Let the supplies and services reach at the place, and let other departments, other line departments join there, and definitely you will find a lot of changes. Next slide. And personally working on this sector, I have personally realized nutrition is not a big rocket science. It is supposed to be most cheapest and simplest intervention in the world. It does not require big things. So with a simple technology, simple effort, interpersonal counseling and behavior change, you can transform nutritional landscape. And this last slide about John Andhra, which is Honorable Prime Minister's vision that let nutrition be guided by a people's movement. And I have tried to map about our human capital and social capital. There are self-help groups, there are schools and colleges, there are institutions, Village Health Nutrition Day, we have dairy cooperatives, we have Anganwadi centers, and we have Anganwadi workers and helpers. And there are lot of other human capital potential, other social capital potential. If we could join hand together, definitely we can transform India's nutrition landscape. We can also realize the vision of Poshan Abhijan, which is Honorable Prime Minister's scheme for holistic nutrition nourishment. And definitely we can transform the climate landscape and health landscape and make an investment on sustainable planet, sustainable health and sustainable nutrition can bring peace, harmony, and also make India a nutrition superpower. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Basant Kumar sir, for making a wonderful presentation. Really, it was a very informative session, and we are having a training program on child-centric disaster risk reduction. In that, we have a session on disaster impact on children and also a life cycle approach to child-centric DRR. So, from this presentation, from the presentation as well as Dr. Sultana ma'am presentation, we got some insights to include in our training program. I definitely will add with that, sir. I have a question for you, sir. Actually, one side there is the people are facing a problem to provide a healthy and nutritional food to the children. But another side, the people who are capable, who are economically sound to provide the healthy and nutritional food, but the children were not interested. So how can we encourage our children to have a healthy and nutritional food and to avoid junk foods? They always prepare for junk foods. So how can we motivate them?
Yeah, my first response is about nutrition literacy and nutrition awareness. Um, when I was presenting one data that 90% children between 6 to 24 months do not get appropriate complementary feeding, at least 4 food groups. It also includes the children of rich people and middle class people. Interestingly, I presented this data to a chief secretary, and the chief secretary told this data is wrong. I told the data is not wrong, but your children must be fed with breast milk substitutes. So many people don't know. So that is one. So the second is what Honorable Prime Minister also decided, also launched and told. I would agree with that about people's movement. It is not about, and behavior change communication is key. And within behavior change, my personal experience on nutrition is nutrition behavior change is not much effective if you do it through television, radio. it is more effective through intrapersonal counseling. So Anganwadi workers, helpers, they have to go home and they have to spend time. And it is a mandate. Even if there is involvement of local government panchayat people, then it creates double effect. So IPC, interpersonal counseling, is important. Behavior change is important. The third is we need to address the myths and misconceptions. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions about. So let me tell you about sugar or salt. So ideally, as per WHO, one has to consume 5 milligram of salt. But many people think double fortified salt is nutritious, so let us consume more. So that is why it creates problems. So salt, sugar, and fat. So that is third. Fourth is regulatory enforcement and monitoring. Our authorities should also monitor. Our authorities should monitor how, like authority like food safety authority like food FSSAI, they should also strengthen the food safety monitoring mechanisms. They should also ensure that people don't consume trans fat. They should also ensure that there is people don't misuse the breast milk substitute act, and children do not consume ultra processed food because it increases their obesity. So it is a combination of all factors. If we could invest, then I think we can get the result.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Participants, if you are having any questions related to this climate change and child health and nutrition, you are appreciated to ask here. You also can post your question in the chat box, or you also can raise your hand, so we'll unmute here. Any questions from the participants side? So by the time now, I request Professor Santosh Kumar, sir, if you are available, you may reflect on these presentations. Professor Santosh Kumar, sir, would you like to add any points here? Rajneesh, Professor Rajneesh, would you like to add here anything?
Okay, so no question from my side. It's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, you are talking about the food groups, right? And we have we can divide the life cycle of a child into 5 different phases, like their physical and emotional capacities also vary as per their life cycle. So, what type of food group you suggest for the children between 3 to 5 years old?
For 6 to 24 months, I suggested about 4 food groups.
Okay.
And out of the 10 food groups I listed, suppose one group is fruits and vegetable. There are hundreds of fruits and vegetable, but it is immaterial which fruit and vegetable you are giving, but a child should get fruit and vegetable. So beyond 2 years, they should get minimum 6 food groups, which is also prescribed for pregnant women. So more is better. Another thing, there is a slogan which we use in our own training program, Triranga Bhojan, tricolor, India's tricolor. You must have seen that India's tricolor has 3 colors. So add color to a plate. In America, they have a slogan, add colors to your plate. जितना कलर आप ऐड करोगे इतना ही अच्छा है. But at least 4 food groups for children 6 to 24 months and 6 food groups for pregnant women. And if it is 7, nothing wrong. If it is 8, nothing wrong.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Just I'll read out few questions here. Nowadays, most of the children wants to eat the same food every single day. Is it okay?
No, it is not okay. Actually, it is. You need to increase the dietary diversity. you need to add colors to the plate, and so it is not okay. And you might consult a nutritionist, but if you can money, but otherwise you can also consult Anganwadi worker, ANM, who can also provide you guidance about that. But always increase dietary diversity.
Okay, thank you. I request Dr. Sultana also to join here. So whoever interested, you can take up these questions. Here, the nutritional value in fruit and vegetables is being down to chemical fertilizers or potential value, and also what is your view on this?
I think Sir made a good presentation, and I think there are a couple of questions which are coming up. I think this Mr. Praveen Prasad, who has written that the nutritional value in fruit and vegetables are going down. I think most of us are having this concern. But given the point, I think Sir also spoken about that pre-COVID and post-COVID, kitchen gardens. People have started investing their time now on that. Why blame? Of course, we are not able to produce every kind of fruit, every kind of vegetable. But I think, given the change now, it's very important that we start developing small, vegetables like, for example, even chili, tomatoes, and, plantains. Some of them are having spaces. I think our forefathers and all of them had invested their time and energy, in bringing such a edible fruits and vegetables in their own kitchen gardens, like greens, like carrots, like tubers and all that. So slowly, we have felt that only eating is our prerogative, whereas cultivating, producing, manuring, that is not our cup of tea. But I think this COVID has given us a very good learning that you are going to be responsible for the kind of food you are going to eat. So invest your time, invest your energy, invest whatever skills you are having in trying to build up the kind of vegetables and fruits which are required for your own body. So I think that has brought in a change in many of us. I think that you start like the simple herbs. Okay, I think there are two drinks which have become very familiar as far as South India is concerned. The Kabasura Kudineer and the Nilavembu and all that. Now these are all combination of the simple herbs which our forefathers in the earlier generations used to consume. But somehow, we've just forgotten this fact. And I think now people are reinventing themselves, and many of them have gone back to the idea of kitchen garden, terrace garden, or whatever, backyard, or whatever it is. And then I think that can minimize the impact of the chemical and the fertilizers and all that on your foods which you consume to a level.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question is, how does climate change play a role in food security and nutrition?
Yeah, so let me respond, then Madam can complement. Um, there are many reports which suggest that there is hunger has gone up in India. Even in National Family Health Survey Report 5, which came out for 17 states and 5 union territories, many nutrition indicators have not shown good improvement. Even anemia has gone down, obesity has gone down. So these are the early warning signs which indicate that uh, kahin na kahin our food system is diluted or broken, or it is bearing on climate change. So this is my view.
Thank you, sir. The second question is how to manage food habits during examination times.
Madam should speak.
So I'm happy that you're passing on these questions. I think I respond this as both as a practitioner, as a parent, as well as a academician. I'm happy you're passing on these questions. I think examination times we see students getting stressed up, getting really bogged up during exams. But see, the food habits, why specifically examination times? It has to be throughout the year. Food is something like what Sir rightly presented, Professor Basantakar Sir rightly presented. It is a part and parcel of everyday activity, everyday aspect on your table. So I think if you imbibe that food patterns during the normal days, examination is not going to be a stress at all. Like, every time I ask my students in the class, how many of you at least go for a walk in the morning? See, most of them, they don't get up, they have a habit of, like, if the university is 9:30, they get up only by 8:30, 8:45 if they're in a hostel, or, at home, they might have to get up 7:30 to fetch a bus or take a mode of transportation. So I think food, exercise, sleep, these three things, they are not specific for examination. They have to be specifically planned throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout your life. So inbuilt that pattern, and examination can never be a stress if you plan your academics and you plan your food and your pattern properly. Like for example, many of them ask us, ma'am, we can't speak to you after 10 o'clock or something like that. I say it's not because of aging, but it's because of a pattern which I've set that I can rise up early, but I sleep early. It depends upon individual to individual. You identify which pattern suits you with respect to your food, with respect to your exercise, with respect to your rest, and with respect to your study. Make a uniform pattern and follow that. I'm sure you will never have a stress during examination time. You can even eat biryani during examination if you plan it properly. So that's my stand.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We have three more questions. How to manage, how to control obesity caused due to long studying hours?
Yeah.
Can you repeat that?
How to control obesity caused due to long studying hours?
Okay, obesity is not caused, not, I don't know whether obesity is caused because of the study hour, but obesity is caused because of the food related issues, number one. And within food, there are three things you need to take into account. A higher consumption of salt, sugar, and fat, specifically trans fat. So chanachur mixtures, bread, street foods, and any product linked to banaspati or hydrogenated oil is linked to trans fat. So be very careful. So that is one factor related to food. The second is lifestyle issues, which Madam spoke. If you do not do exercise or if you do not sleep properly, so that is also another factor. But there is a typical study which came out few years back about obesity analysis of the children in Mexico. They found that it is a poor country. Still, how come the people are obese? So some research says if there is a childhood malnutrition, it can lead to obesity. So that is another thing which needs further analysis. So these are the causes for obesity, but not necessarily it is only linked to study.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I'll ask one more question. As a youth, what can we do at ground level to mitigate the effects of climate change and ensure food safety to the vulnerable section?
I request, madam, but my message is as a youth, become a climate warrior, become a nutrition warrior, become a health warrior, and you can champion the cause and you can transfer. Over to you, madam.
Yes, sir, I think I'm very happy that this individual has asked that I'm a youth and how should I contribute. Even that thought is a beginning for, giving your hands towards this noble cause. So I appreciate that. And please remember, whoever have asked this question, that today the demand is from the youth. Okay, we are all involved here in capacity building to enlighten your thoughts on climate change. You are going to be the change maker in this world, in this country especially, because as I already informed, that we are the most youth densely populated country in the world. Please remember my young friend who's asked this question, that today suicides are more among the young people because you are not having a goal in most of their lives. As this, I think the another madam had asked, what do I do when I have to sit for long studying hours? I just recollect a question which someone had asked to Albert Einstein, the renowned scientist. Sir, can you tell me what is the velocity of the sound? And then he says, I don't remember the figures like this because a subject needs have to be reminded in terms of facts and figures. Rather, you have to know what is the content. So the long studying hours, please don't get into rote reading and rote writing. Please understand the content. And I think, the long studying hours is a wrong pattern of not understanding what to study, how to study, and when to study. This is the message we keep repeating to the school children, to the adolescents, and to the younger generation. If you have a proper planned timetable, you can never end up in long studying hours. Trust me, as I have 2 decades of experience of teaching now, even as a student, I think I could not afford to do that, because if you are going to have a sedentary lifestyle pattern, you need to have a holistic allotment of time for adequate rest, sleep, exercise, socialization, even watching television for that matter, or reading books. You need to have that. Otherwise, I don't think the objective of you will achieve the objective of what you are studying. And to this young gentleman who had asked, how would you contribute? Please have microscopic networking in your own community. Begin from your own family, begin from your own family members, from your friends, from your community. Please enlighten them, sensitize them about how they could help in climate change. Who's responsible? There are so many volunteers like Nehru Yuva Kendra and all of them. Join hands with them. Try to bring in factual information. Try to share. Try to inform people that you are also becoming a part and parcel of creating this climate change. How you can avoid, write blogs, write reviews, bring a lot of data to NIDM, and let's all join hands to bring in a positive transformation as far as climate change is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I thank both the panelists for answering all the questions. Now, I would like to invite Professor Santosh Kumar, sir, to reflect on the presentation and to deliver a concluding remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bala, Shahinji, and also Mr. Kerr, and the presentations were really always great learning for me. I'm not competent authority to comment on the presentation on nutrition, but definitely I see kind of challenge of these nutrition what have been highlighted during the time of crisis, like say that flood situation, which is a prolonged kind of a displacement of the affected population from the place of occurrence of disaster to the other place. And the second is the drought, which builds up on a gradual basis time frame. So earlier we had 1 or 2 or 3 states known for drought, but now today 17 states are reeling under drought situation, and gradually this is also magnifying every day. So these two are the two crisis situation which I found is very important for ensuring that nutrition part. And when also when see the COVID-19 and we see that nutrition is a major part for actually maintaining the immunity. And so if all those go back, the third, fourth kind of a disaster, which I anticipate, which is not with the larger crisis of this, but it is happening due to the lifestyle, which Mr. Kerr has already highlighted that if your lifestyle is not correct, you are bound to fall in the disaster situation. And that disaster situation, whether it's lead to obesity or maybe lead to undernutrition or maybe some other dearrangement. Madam was also telling, and she was telling that how actually, in fact, we have in many of the field, whenever we start looking at on any topic, whether we talk about gender issues, whether we talk about children-related issues, when we talk about nutrition issues, we see that the large deficient development we found it today, and the development process itself is magnifying the problem as climate change issues when she's writing again and again. So climate, God has been given, we say that all Panch Tattva as a kind of to live on this earth, and been polluting all those things in a kind of the way our lifestyle has become. Whether it's a river is not like the river which we used to have in 20 years or 30 years or 50 years ago. So similarly, when you see that the forest, the forest is not the same. So everything has the bearing on the kind of the ecosystem which we are creating all around. That has a larger bearing on our lifestyle, on our health system also. Today, this theory is also coming up. The studies are coming that COVID-19 is also the opposites of the human-induced disaster. And the way we are playing with the nature, and that these kind of mutations, these kinds of virus, and many of the kind of in the nature, we had that kind of antidotes available right there. So if X is there, X is a problem, then Y as an antidote within the nature it is there. So that kind of a perspective, we have gone far off from there, and I do not know how long we will continue with this. And we have become very, very kind of now a reactive approach on this. If X happens, then we react. Then Y happens, then we react. Then when Z happens, then we react. So we need to revisit our entire paradigm shift in the reimagine development itself, and how we are going to reimagine, how collectively we can be partner with this. So silos probably will not work, and we have to think holistically. We have to think in a more of a convergence manner rather than thinking separately, each sector separately. Today, public health, that she is saying, public health is important issue. What we are saying, disaster management and public health issues cannot be separated now, but have to go together. So that authorities dealing with public health issues, authorities dealing with disaster-related issues, authorities dealing with nutrition, because when we say that nutrition and vulnerability is a direct linkages. So how these things actually can go into our entire development discourse, this is a challenge. So I would urge also that university and educational institutions or people who are representing this, how we can think of as a solution-based curriculum within the university also. Like if any state, say Puducherry is there and Tamil Nadu, what is the specific problem in Tamil Nadu or maybe in a country also, whether related to flood-related nutrition gap or tsunami-related nutrition gap or drought-related nutrition gap or poverty-related nutrition gap. How these could be knitted together as a problem and can be given as an example to the state government or to the national government. Because that the kind of curriculum which we had, I don't know today, much more of a theoretical, not addressing to the issues with the country is grappling with. So how these educational institutions join hands with the NIDM or other institution or those who are working, we have to work in partnership. I have a firm belief bringing the silos together. So I would also urge Madam to see our all India. We have created also Indian Universities Network of universities and institution network for disaster risk management, and we have sent a letter to almost all the universities in the country to be the member. It's a charge free. There's no charge, and you can be the part of this and deliberations. We are going to launch it in the month of January. It has already minor launches there, but with the partners, we are going to launch it in the month of January. And we have requested our Honorable Minister also to grace the occasion so that we can roll down very quickly with the partners that how we can work together. And on the learning curve, we can also go as a kind of a very fast. We should not be very slow on learning curve as well. So that would be possible only when we join hands together. So this much I wanted to say, and those points have been brought by these three panelists, eminent panelists, very well. Dr. Rajneesh is also there, Dr. Kar is there, and Madam is there. So how we can think of just not remain confined to this webinar only, how your engagement, your time, which we can get as an NIDM and support us, our endeavor. Dr. Balu would be in touch with us, and you can always get in touch with us. Dr. Raka is there and Ranjan is there. And so our executive director, General Bindal, is there. He's always there to support such kind of a new initiatives and so on. So let us make an innovative steps of reimagining the challenges and look for good solutions. So thank you very much, and I express my gratitude and thanks to all the panelists, very, very distinguished panel which we had today. We are grateful to you for supporting NIDM. Thank you very much. Dr. Bala, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. As we know that today you are busy, even though you could able to join with us for all three programs since morning. West Bengal.
I was taking session in PDN parallelly.
Oh, in between you have taken session also. Great, sir.
So this one, it happens in life at times. This opportunity, all opportunity comes to you at one day.
Nice.
Thank you.
And Professor Rajni is also here from Banaras Hindu University. He also can use the opportunity of this Indian disaster.
Yes, and BHU is the biggest university we have, and how BHU can. SARC also, when I was there, we had a good collaboration effort on climate change study. Dr. Mal was there. I don't know, Dr. Rajneesh is aware about this project or not, but
Dr. Mal is in sustainable development.
So let us combine together, Dr. Rajneesh, and the BHU is a big university, and we always vouch for that.
I think it will be a great opportunity for.
Yeah. So, Dr. Balu, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Now we had a wonderful webinar today, and we are at the end of this webinar. So I would like to thank, first of all, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, sir, Executive Director, NIDM, and Professor Santosh Kumar, sir, for his guidance and being joining with us for delivering a concluding remarks. I also thank Professor Rajneesh for collaborating with us, a professor from Department of Law, and I also thank Professor R.K. Rai, Dean from the Banaras Hindu University. And my final gratitude goes to the Basant Kumar sir, a nutritional man who is known as international level. And also I thank Dr. Sahina from Pondicherry University. So finally, I would like to thank all the panelists and participants for joining with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you. Wish you a very happy New Year to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
Rajni sir, thank you so much.
Dr. Balu, I'm muting. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you.